Hello, this is Dr. Kevin Polk, and welcome to the Psychological Flexibility Podcast, which I will also post on the Psychological Flexibility blog, and it'll somehow make its way over to the YouTube Psychological Flexibility movies in some way or another. But first, we'll start with the podcast and the blog. And this one is titled Listening for Flexibility. And I'm going to read through the little text that you see over here on the right, so you can read along with me if you want. And I also have the matrix diagram up. My name's there, and you can see Gerald Hamright, that's my colleague. And then over to here I can show it off. Over to there's Mark Webster's name too. He helped out with this matrix thing. So here we go, taking a look at listening for flexibility. Feeling less psychologically flexible or feeling stuck is a byproduct of words. We start right out of the womb as flexible little learners, soaking up information through our five senses, and finally relating that information to words. And the words are down here in mental experiencing. As time goes by, the words get stronger and stronger. We pay less attention to our five senses, that's up here, experiencing, and more attention to the words in our heads. The words are down here. Of course, the words are wonderful and allow us to communicate with others. So we take the words out of mental experiencing and send them through our five senses to other people's five senses. However, the price we pay for the words is less flexibility. That is, we can believe what the words in our heads are telling us down here, instead of integrating the information that is also available to us through our five senses up here. So we come to have a dominance of mental experiencing that overtakes our five senses experiencing. Obviously, both are happening at the same time, but we end up getting stuck down here in the mental experiencing a bit, or at least less flexible down here, and especially over here in the suffering stuff. But you can get stuck over in values as well. Most of the time, less flexibility is no big deal. But at other times, it keeps us stuck doing things that just don't work for valued living. So we get stuck over here, and it takes us out of the behaving for valued living. The trick is to let go of the words. You let go of them a bit over here and pay more attention to what our five senses are letting us know about the world. And by putting those two things together, you get more flexible here in the middle. One of the easiest ways to do that is listening for flexibility. So you're using your five senses experiencing to hear the words, and then you, here in the middle, are listening for flexibility. So note, the following is an experiment. If you get a chance to do the experiment, please let me know about your results in the comments section of the Psychological Flexibility blog. Or I think you can also do comments in the Podbean or on iTunes too. When someone is speaking to you, here's the experiment. When somebody is speaking to you, notice the impact of his or her words on your flexibility. So the words come in through your hearing, and maybe you're seeing the person as well, but you definitely hear them. And the information comes in, and you start doing the mental experiencing of the words that were said to you. So notice the impact of his or her words on your flexibility. Do the words feel flexible inside of you? Does it feel like you have more or less options after hearing the words? So after you hear somebody talk, does it seem like you have more flexibility to choose to go this way or this way, whichever way you want to go, or less flexibility? Such noticing is done in an instant, and you really don't spend any time analyzing it. And you really don't. This is pretty well non-verbal stuff. It's got verbal in it, but you're doing it in the you right here, mixing the five senses experience and mental experiencing together. So you do it fast and you don't think about it. So just notice the flexibility and keep listening or respond. After you respond, that is, you say something back to the other person. So after you respond to the person, does the next thing the person says sound more or less flexible? So you've heard their level of flexibility. It's come into you. You've noticed your level of flexibility, less or more flexible. Then you send out information, and then you listen to hear if the words coming back at you sound more or less flexible. So you're going back and forth between you and the person, noticing the flexibility as it goes back and forth. And there you go. So to review, the first you notice the flexibility of the speaker's words as they rattle around inside of you. So actually it starts, you hear the speaker's words, the words come inside of you, and you notice the flexibility inside of you. Then you're noticing what you say after hearing the flexibility. So you've heard the flexibility and you say something back to the person. So you notice what's the flexibility of the words that you use. So then you are noticing what you say after hearing the flexibility. So you notice what you say. And then you return to listening for flexibility. So now you're ready to hear the other person talk. Obviously that sounds complicated, so you just do it a little bit at a time and get used to hearing flexibility, both in what the words of other people and also hearing flexibility in your own speaking, whether it's speaking to somebody else or the words inside your own head. So, to continue on with reading, you really can't think about this process much. There is just not enough time. It's much like learning balancing on a bicycle. You don't have time to think about balancing and doing at the same time. You simply notice the balance, notice the next action, and then notice the balance. The more you ride, the more natural the process becomes. It's the same when you're learning to do listening for psychological flexibility. In one fluid motion, you notice the flexibility, notice what you say next, and then return to noticing flexibility. And so that's it for the experiment. And when you get done with it, write what your experience with listening with flexibility is into the blog content. And by all means, make sure you sign up to the Psychological Flexibility Podcast so you can get copies of this. And you can view the Psychological Flexibility videos on YouTube. Just look me up, Dr. Kevin Polk, or Kevin Polk, that'll find it. And of course, right in the blog, you can post comments to the blog. And so until next time, listen for flexibility. Bye-bye now.